Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for another episode of the Milner and Musgrove Show with me, Andrew Musgrove, and him, Sam Milner. Plenty to talk about when it comes to Newcastle United. And in today's episode, we're going to focus on backups to Alexander Isak and where the focus now lies in terms of bringing in another centre forward. First things first, Sam, welcome back to the show. How are you keeping? Are you well?
Good. I once again am offended by your use of the term backup because I don't think backup to Alexander Isak is what we're after. I think with a multiple pronged campaign this coming season, I think the potential new signing would have more game time than what a normal backup would have. But yeah, it's interesting. It's some of the names that have been linked have confused me somewhat. But I'm guessing you're happy as Larry, your man. It looks like it's there, Anthony Elanga.
Yep, indeed. We're recording this on Wednesday afternoon, and this will go out on Thursday morning. And Alanga may well be confirmed as a Newcastle United player by the time you watch or listen to this episode. And I am indeed over the moon. I'm even thinking about opening up another fan club for a winger. Of course, it used to be Miguel Almiron. It may well now be Anthony Alanga. I'm over the moon with it. Everyone knows I think it's a good deal. I think the price is fine as well. We've got a player who can reach huge levels. And I think he will be worth double what Newcastle United paid for him in the years to come. But before I get your opinion on him, I've seen you grimace. Come back in a moment. Just on the point about backup to Alexander Isak, I agree with you. You know, in previous episodes, I've been pretty strong and I've said what I want is someone to rival Alexander Isak, to make it so that Eddie Howe, when he comes to put that team sheet on the door, you don't automatically think it's going to be Alexander Isak. That's the sort of player I want. But given Newcastle's budget, given Newcastle United's priorities now, they've signed the right winger. That's just not going to be doable, I don't think. But there are certain players that we're going to talk about, namely one player in Yoane Wissa, who I think could offer as close to that rival as we may be able to afford this summer. But before we do that, Anthony Langa, are you still unconvinced?
Um, what have I said in past episodes of this podcast? Look, he was nowhere near top of my list. But if we get him, then he gets my full support, and I hope he proves me wrong and absolutely smashes it up in a Newcastle United shirt. So those are my exact feelings. I'm really interested to see how Eddie Howe can improve him, can develop him, and yeah, I mean the pace in our front three would be frightening. Speed kills, as Chris Eubank Senior once said in a boxing metaphor. But yeah, I hope he does really well. Wish him all the best. Gets my full support, and yeah, looking forward to seeing him in action.
I can't wait. I cannot wait for.
I don't think he doubles his price tag though. I
You
think
don't?
you're urinating in a breeze with that one.
Okay, well, we'll come back in a few years' time when he's won nearly every trophy possible with Newcastle United.
I hope so.
Let's be positive. Let's be ambitious. Why not? It's Anthony Langa. He's going to blow people away. Any doubters, whether you're a Newcastle United fan or not, this is going to be a fantastic sign and really shows Newcastle mean business for me. Before we talk about the backups or rivals to Alexander Isak, just a quick thanks to our sponsors, Saily, the new eSIM service app provider brought to you by the creators of NordVPN. Here you can choose from several affordable eSIM data plans in over 200 destinations. With a Saily eSIM, you'll always have a connection when needed. If you've ever been lost abroad or badly needed an internet connection with no Wi-Fi spot in sight, you'll understand what a difference a local SIM card can make. An eSIM provides an internet connection wherever you travel and saves you money on roaming fees. Click the link in the podcast description box to get a discount offer on your eSIM. Stay connected and support the podcast at the same time. It really is affordable and the best way to stay connected while abroad. Sam, come on then. Let's talk about Yoane Wissa of Brentford. 29 years of age, or 28 rather, sorry.
Yeah.
19 goals, 35 appearances last season, 45 goals and 137 appearances overall. I'm a big fan of him. I really think he's a top striker. Is he in the same league as Alexander Isak? No, he's not, but he's prolific in the Premier League, and that's what counts. I would be on board with this.
Um, Yeah, it's got me completely confused. First up, though, just to briefly touch on Callum Wilson. What a man, what a player, what a job he's done. Did the number 9 shirt justice. And you mention a player where you can rival Isak and you never really know which striker is going to start. That's exactly what we had a couple of years ago. In that season we finished fourth, and then when they played together, when we were chasing a game, it gave you real hope. Whether Isak was putting the tenor out on the left, it was game changing at the likes of Southampton at home, Brentford away, all them couple of seasons ago. They were pushing each other on, and we were frightening. We looked like we were going into every game where we could score an absolute hatful. So I wouldn't have been against him signing an extra year, pay as you play. But obviously it's not for Callum. He sees his future elsewhere. But yeah, wish him the best. What a servant. Great player for us. Whether it was keeping us up under Steve Bruce or qualifying for the Champions League. But the names we've been linked with, Wissa being the kind of main one, it's got me completely confused. I'm not doubting his ability. It just doesn't fit with our kind of transfer ethos that's been the case over there. Well, since the takeover, obviously there's a couple of exceptions with Trippier and Chris Wood or whatever, but they were kind of in a different situation. Yeah, nearly 29 years of age. Obviously, Forest put in a bid or two for him last summer, didn't they? But couldn't agree a fee. I don't think we'll be getting close to Brentford's valuation either, to be honest. I know he's only apparently got a year left on his contract, but you're going to tell me that Brentford may have an option of another year.
Yeah, they've got an option to extend it by a further 12 months, and obviously that hasn't been activated as of yet. And you
It
are right,
will be though.
Forest. Yeah, it will be most certainly. But Forest, as you see, had an interest and are still interested in him. But reports put a £50 million price tag on Wissa's head, and that for me is far too much. Far too much. I think anything under 30, I'd be on board with. And I get your point about it not being the strategy that Newcastle United have followed and have briefed about in recent seasons. But I think sometimes you've maybe got to deviate from your approach and maybe signing someone who has that experience, who you're not going to get the years out of, who you're not going to get the chance to sell on at a profit or even claim half your money back. It isn't ideal, but sometimes you've got to do things that maybe don't sit too well. And this one would sit a lot better because what you're getting is an experienced, prolific Premier League goal scorer. So, if he was to be signed for £30 million, I'd be on board with that because I think he's someone who can push Alexander Isak, but he's also someone who comes in and is a little bit accepting of what he's coming into. I mean, you just say, hey, Yoane, you want to play Champions League football? He'll be here, click of a finger. You know what I mean? So I think he'd be the perfect signing for Newcastle United and Eddie Howe. He's just a good all round Premier League player, probably without that expectation that he would be ahead of Alexander Isak, even though I think he could push him.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Again, I'm not doubting Wissa's ability, but I just, from a financial aspect, it just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Yes, the kind of fee for Elanga, but which by the way, every deal so far this summer is gone way too expensive. Far beyond market value. The only team that have gotten any sort of value so far this summer is Manchester City, with Reinders. I just don't understand this one because there's not going to be much resale value. Yes, you may be going for a player of that age to give Sula more time to develop because he's still nowhere near ready, which we've spoke about before. I just don't understand it from a financial aspect. Ollie Watkins was another one that I saw us being linked to as well, which Villa fans would say it's a sideways move for Watkins. Newcastle fans would say, well, we actually have got Champions League this season. He was linked with Arsenal, of course, back in January, but it would be another one that I just don't see. I just don't see why aren't we looking for younger alternatives where it could be the old Nico Barella, and we actually might be, and Wissa and Watkins are just a bit of a smokescreen.
Well, I wonder whether it is something to do with Willisula, and people know I'm a massive fan. I think he will reach the heights, but perhaps Newcastle United are accepting that really in a big game environment, you don't want to throw the lad in because he's too raw. And what they're looking at is having someone who is, like I say, experienced and can handle that pressure and can actually provide you with the end product. And that's what you get with Wissa. And yes, you have to pay a little bit more, but maybe it is that Premier League experience and that comes with age as well, just that kind of, wise head that they're after for what will be a very, very busy season, rather than rolling the dice and bringing in someone alongside of Sula who's the same age, who you're looking at in 2, 3, 4 years at being at the height and ability of someone like Wissa. So I wonder that's what they're doing. And also
Yeah,
looking at their budget as well, Sam, and where they want to strengthen elsewhere, aside from that right wing. I mean, you spend 52, 55 million on Langer. You're going to spend the best part of 30 million at least on James Trafford. With that deal, hopefully, will get done in the next week or so. Then you're looking at probably at least 30 to 45 million on a right-sided centre back. It doesn't leave you with a huge amount of money to spend up front, which is a really important position to strengthen because Callum Wilson is now gone.
yeah,
You do wonder whether they're trying to play clever there as well, and just looking for the best value alongside someone who can hit the ground running, which is easier said than done. But at the same time, you might buy back at me and say, well, wait there, they were going to spend 60 million on João Pedro. So
yeah.
why the change?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would have said. So if you were looking for a cheap alternative, then the old, sorry to bring it up, but Dominic Calvert-Lewin would just be a straight swap for current day Callum Wilson, injury prone striker that's going to be second choice. Asula, yeah, is not ready. He's probably a year or two still away because look, he's a fantastic character and he's a massive. Kind of plus point in the dressing room because it's obviously he's obviously well liked and a proper nutcase character, which we all love, don't we, as Newcastle fans? But he ain't ready. All of his good performances last season came against Championship level teams and below. So yeah, he's still got some developing to do. Time is on his side, but I just don't. I don't see why we're skimping now when we were fully prepared to go all out on João Pedro, in addition to Alanga anyway, which the first year of Alanga has now been amortised by the near completion of Sean Longstaff's sale to Leeds, who it was another player I've defended resolutely over the past few years. Sean Longstaff, always been a big fan. The time is probably right for him. I think he realizes that, and to get a fee for him, which is still relatively cheap, I think Leeds are getting a very good deal. But that amortizes the first year of Alanga's fee.
Well, maybe that plays into the reason why they maybe are going for someone like Wissa, hopefully at a price much cheaper than João Pedro, is because do they now need to replace Sean Longstaff, and there's an extra bit of money that they need to spend on a player in a position where maybe a few weeks ago you were maybe thinking no.
I don't think. Well, we discussed this the other week, didn't we? And I don't think we do need to replace Sean Longstaff. I think were we to sell Joe Willock, then we'd obviously need to get another midfielder in. We're assuming that Howe's sticking with the 4-3-3 this season. I'm not sure that'll be the case. I think we might go with the midfield two, with a sort of back three, back five, because of the form of Dan Burn. And I don't think Eddie Howe will want to drop Burn to bring Botman back, who you have to bring back because he's the world class centre back if he can stay fit. And then you add in the kind of new right sided centre back to kind of compete with Fabian Schär. It's squad dilemmas, isn't there? So I don't think you do need to replace Sean. I think there's a decision to be made. If you bring in a new midfielder, would you be wanting to sell Joe Willock as well? But yeah, I'm not of the opinion that we should be skimping on this area of the pitch because it's mightily important. It's massively important.
I mean, I could see Wissa happening. I can't see Ollie Watkins happening. I just don't see how that would
No.
work. I don't think the player would accept that as well. You know, we knew how unhappy he was at Villa being second choice at certain parts of last season. He's not going to come to Newcastle United and play a similar role to that. Who else is out there?
Well, look, we discussed this the other week. I still would be very keen on looking at the Rennes striker, Callum Wendo. He would kind of fit the mold of the João Pedro that could be. I think what we're after is someone with that flexibility to play anywhere along the front line. And I think that's what we were going for with Pedro. Obviously, got the 2 goals for Chelsea in the Club World Cup semi-final, but I wouldn't be getting overly carried away with that. Fluminense's average age of their squad is about 85 years old, so he's still got something to prove. But he's obviously had a very good start. Jonathan David to Juventus is pretty much done, I think. What I don't want to hear is any clamouring for Vlahovic, because he is the most overrated, talked about striker in Europe. He's guff. I don't want him anywhere near Newcastle. There's one, well, there's a couple I have in mind, both relatively ambitious, but like again, we're looking. I'm sticking with the kind of frame of mind that we have that budget, what we were prepared to pay for Pedro. The one is a bit of a loan deal, though. I'm still tantalised by Hendrick. And I'm not sure he's out with a hamstring injury at the minute, which is why he's missed the Club World Cup. I'm not convinced he fits into Xabi Alonso's plans. Xabi Alonso has employed a 3-5-2 since going to Real Madrid, with the 2 probably going to be Vinicius and Mbappe. But now the Club World Cup has seen the emergence of Gonzalo Garcia, who's been absolutely tearing it up in the absence of Mbappe. So I don't know where that leaves Hendrick in the pecking order, who can play off the right, who again has that versatility to play anywhere along the front line, and he's still only 18. Brazilian, so he'd fit in this squad like a glove with Bruno and Big Joe to look after him. I think there could be a potential loan for maybe a view to purchase with him. I don't think it's the same kind of hype job as maybe an Ansu Fati was when Brighton got him on loan from Barca. I think there's a little probably overly ambitious. You're going to tell me, but just who knows what's ambitious and what's not these days? Because I thought Tonali and Isak were too ambitious, and look what happened. So I'm intrigued by Hendrick's availability, because I think there is a potential exit for him on the cards, because he's not going to do a job on the right hand side for Real Madrid, because that's why they've just signed Alexander Arnold. They're employing wing backs who push further on up than your traditional wing backs, because it's Real Madrid. So I don't see where he fits into Xabi Alonso's plans. Thoughts?
I mean, it would be ambitious and it would be quite the statement, but also his age. I mean, are you going to? I just feel
Age
like
is but a number, Andrew.
I know, but 18 years old, and I guess I get he's coming from one of the biggest or the biggest club in the world, but I'm not sure that's what Newcastle United want in terms of this
But
Alexander
is it
Isak
what they
rival.
need?
No, because I think no, I don't
No,
think it is
okay.
what they need. I think they need
You're
someone
gonna
with.
hate my second choice then.
Oh my god, I think they need someone with experience and someone who can hit the ground running. And I think that's why you're seeing these names like Wissa, like Watkins, like CalvertLewin being linked.
It's abundantly apparent that we want Premier League experience, and we are buying from Premier League this summer. So, with that in mind, I want an ambitious move for the forgotten man of Manchester City.
Go on.
You can't remember him? He scored a winner against us season before last in the dying embers.
Oscar Bob.
Correctamundo.
Is
I
he
don't.
a forward?
Hmm?
He's not a forward, though, is he?
Yes, dear.
Continue.
Can play anywhere along the front line. Obviously, horrendous injury last season. So can he come back from that? With City's signings since his injury, again, I'm not sure. Is there an opportunity for him in Pep Guardiola's side? I'm not so sure. I think it'd be a shrewd move. And he's still what 20? I think he's about 22, 23 off the top of my head.
He's 21.
Oh, okay, even younger then.
And according to Transfer Market, he predominantly plays out on the flanks, plays a number 10. So not an out-and-out striker. According to Transfer Market, anyway, Sam, you can take on the website in your own time. But look, I mean, aside from him not, in my opinion, fitting the position that we're talking about, he would.
I
For
think
me,
he fits the João Pedro mold.
Yeah, João Pedro could hold the forward line
I think Bob
in his own right. I'm not sure Bob could do that, but I think he would be a brilliant sign. And Newcastle need to do more of that. I think they need to target the Manchester City, not outcasts, but those who have just fallen short of making a mark in their first team in terms of being able to hold the position down. I want to see Newcastle doing more of that, and Bob fits that profile perfectly. You know, the way Palmer went to City, and the way Lavia and all of that have moved on and done things. That's what Newcastle need to be doing. So Bob would fit that perfectly. Not sure he's the striker that they need though or want.
Okay, I do.
That's the beauty of debate and opinion, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he can. I mean, again, you wouldn't be. I think what we're aiming for here is a really fluid forward line where the pace element can see the three intertwine. So at various points next season, you could see Isak 5 minutes on the left with Gord Elanga switching places. It's going to be a much more fluid line with inverted wingers and Isak up top. I guess that's what Howe's looking for, unless he employs a sort of number 10 in behind. It depends which system he's going to employ, really, because obviously he changed it up towards the back end of last season, and it wouldn't surprise me if we started the season like that as well, moving away from the traditional 4-3-3. But yeah, they were just a couple of names that sort of fit more into our transfer mold, really. As I say, I don't want anything to do with Vlahovic. I still love Karim Konate from Salzburg as well. Ferran Torres was another one that we've been linked on and off with. I'm not really interested in him. And the other one that is kind of free to leave Real Madrid is Rodrigo, but we're never going to pay his wages. So it's a complete non-starter, isn't it? So yeah, it's tricky, and we have to get it right. Xavi Simons, I would be surprised. Obviously, the original one was Ekatike. He was the kind of OG target, wasn't he? And obviously, he's gone one step back to take two forward now, and he's valued at a ridiculous amount. So again, that wouldn't be happening. Mateus Sula from Roma was another one I was going to bring up, but I'm not completely convinced by him yet. But again, he's another one that can play in the 10 over on the right. Up top, he's Argentinian. He's only been at Roma for a season. They signed him from Juventus for 20 mil last summer. He still probably has a bit more to prove for me, and I'm always a bit wary of strikers from Serie A as well. But yeah, I don't know. It's so tough, which again might be why they're kind of throwing caution to the wind, or PSR caution to the wind, and going for someone who's arguably already in their peak years, 28, 29, 30, but there's just not going to be a sell on value.
Yeah, no, it is a difficult market, and we spoke about this on the Monday show. It kind of, the name's been linked, and the fact that Dominic CalvertLewin continues to be linked to Newcastle United despite his record of late shows you, I think, just how difficult that market is to shop for a striker to fit what Newcastle United want in terms of, wages, budget. I know they wouldn't pay anything for CalvertLewin, and also end product. I mean, like I say, a big fan of Wissa, but if he's going to cost you £30 million, probably more given their asking price.
it will be more.
I mean, I would like to see them go for Strand Larson at Wolves, and I know
They've
you don't think
literally
he's.
just signed him on a permanent.
No, I know that, but hey, chuck 40 million at him, see what happens. That's the kind of player I would like to see. I think that would be a good move. Although, like you say, they just signed him, so it's not going to happen. But maybe
I
one for
still have that
the
quote
future.
written down in my notes. Andrew Musgrove on Jurgen Strand Larsen. He will be a great Premier League striker.
And I stand by that. I stand by that. He'll break into the 100 club.
He'll break into the 100 club.
Get that written down and on a t-shirt when he does it.
I am, mate. Don't worry about that.
Let us know in the comments any names for strikers. I mean, Lookman, I like him. I think he could be a decent signing. He's been linked to quite a few Premier League teams of late. Sam's shaking his head there. He's not on board with that one. Very prolific in Sarriere, although didn't do it at the likes of Everton and Fulham. I think he was on loan at as well. Before we sign off, Sam, just a few questions to get through. Admittedly, some of these were sent in for Gibbo, but I totally forgot to ask them to him. So you're going to get the full mailbag, as it were.
Oh.
We've got Drew, who says, why do we struggle to sell efficiently? 12 million for Longstaff is a steal.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I think it's a great deal for Leeds. Like I mentioned, Sean's probably leaving at the right time. He's probably sixth choice midfielder as things stand. He's been brilliant, and let's not forget the Carabao Cup win would not have come without Sean Longstaff in that penalty shootout in round 2 against Nottingham Forest. And he's had fantastic moments scoring against PSG and the Southampton brace to fire us to Wembley first time round. I know he's had his critics, but I've always been a big fan of his. Brought tremendous balance and stability to the side following Tonali's ban. He's done so well when called upon. I'm sad to see him go, but it's the right time. And we get a fee for him as well, despite it being on the low side. Yeah, we're awful at selling, and I don't know why that is. Whether it be St Maximin as well, went for too cheap. And then you see Liverpool get the fee for someone like Kwanzaa, and you just think, who is paying that and why? What have they seen? Just mind-boggling. So it's something we do have to sort of improve on. But then again, you look on the flip side and you think, well, Lloyd Kelly was a cracking deal, and we mentioned before, didn't we, that a free transfer market is something we have to exploit. Angel Gomez was one I feel we missed out on, because then there was your free transfer to replace Sean. I know you like Decore. He's available on a free. Could he do a job for 1-2 seasons? I wouldn't be against it as a squad player. Obviously, wouldn't be first choice, because to displace Joe Linton, Sandro, or Bruno, you'd be talking 100 million plus to sign a player. But yeah, you need that strength in depth when you're gonna compete on however many fronts we are this season. So it's incredibly tough, and it's something we seriously have to improve on. Villa get very good fees for their outcasts, for the likes of Cameron Archer and that stuff. So yeah, that's something we have to do better with on a more consistent basis.
Yep, we've got one sent in by email from Mark, who says, why not Jonathan Duran? He's gone to Fenerbahce on loan from a public investment funded owned Saudi club. Why weren't Newcastle United in from?
Because he's gone to Fenerbahce on loan. It's a simple answer, but I get your point. Why aren't we exposing the loan market? Which is, I agree. The loan market, we shouldn't be too house proud to not utilise the loan market. Again, mentioned Villa, that's what they did in January and done very well with Asensio, Rashford, whatever. That's why I made the point about Hendrick, because I feel like there could be a loan deal to be done there, and I don't think that's unrealistic. But yeah, I couldn't agree more that a loan market should be utilised. However, you know what it's like. Everything that we do is under the microscope. So if we get loaning players from another PIF owned club in the Saudi league, does that then open Pandora's box, and do we then get hit with charges and rule changes and everything under the sun? I think they're very, very wary of that happening, despite obviously the kind of nonchalant flailings of other rules by other clubs.
Tim says, I think Wissa is the name I've been most excited about that's been linked. His versatility, end product, and intelligence on when and where to move put him top of the pile for me. With Wissa, similar to what Jota has been remembered for of late, chance in the box equals goal. So Tim, is a big fan there of the link to Wissa. The final question that I'm going to ask you, Sam, comes in from Isak. Not that one. How much do you think Eddie will prioritize the Champions League? From what I can see in the modern game, getting in is the biggest goal which we've done. Should the Premier League take priority in order to maintain Champions League status and continue to build?
We have to get to the knockout stages, and I think we will. Obviously, we've had our one season of, oh, this is great. We get to go to Dortmund, Milan, and Paris, and oh, brilliant. Now, like such as the League Cup for when we were at Wembley against Manchester United, when we obviously lost, but this time around it'll be different, and I think it'll be different in the Champions League as well. We have to be getting out of the group stage. Obviously, the format has changed since the last time we were in it. Obviously, the draw is pivotal to that. Pot A looks pretty nasty, of course, so we have to make sure we win our home games. There's no reason why we can't beat a team from Pot A at home, whomever that may be. The one away should be interesting, but yeah, we need to be utilising the squad. So if Pot D or Pot, what is it, numbers or letters? I don't know. You know what I mean, though. The teams we get drawn against in our pot, whether it be someone like Young Boys or Club Bruges, or that sort of level of Bruges on a bad side, to be fair, but someone like a Young Boys, who are perennial whipping boys of the Champions League, aren't they? Let's face it. In a 3-game week, could you then go to Switzerland and play a Wissa up front and rest Isak for the weekend? Yeah, I think you could. We saw the squad utilised in Sir Bobby's day, where we went to Leverkusen and played Amiobi and Loire up front. Brian Kerr was in midfield. Stephen Caldwell was in defence in the Champions League. So why can't we go into a Champions League match with a Wissa up top, or Willock in midfield with Miley, who was fantastic, who took to the Champions League football like a duck to water, didn't he? That performance in Paris. Oh. So yeah, I don't think that we should be overawed like we were last time and just be happy to make up the numbers. We have to be getting out of the group stage.
No, I agree with you. And final question then, Sam, just going back to today's topic about Alexander Isak rivals. It's refreshing, isn't it, to see the club from understanding, targeting not just a centre forward, but someone who can really leave their mark. There was maybe a little bit of uncertainty to whether they would do that. With Alanga coming in, he can play up top, so maybe that might be one option. Anthony Gordon's played there. There were those little doubts in the heads of some people, but it appears Newcastle United are really focusing on bringing in that what essentially would be a number 2 to push Isak. So that's refreshing, isn't it, to see that? And the kind of the sub question that is just how important is it that they get it right?
Massively, and on the whole, they have got it right so far. Again, I hope that continues with Alanga. You kind of just reinforced my point there about a fluid front three, and will Howe employ a 10 in certain games? Will we be much more flexible system wise going into certain games? Yeah, we have to get it right. I don't know. It's like I said, I remain utterly confused when it comes about to buy a striker. But it's good to see us holding on to the key players like Livramento and whatnot, because there's no real kind of outstanding right backs around, wing backs around at the moment, is there? So it'd be incredibly, no wonder Man City are interested, because there's no one else really of a good age that has the potential. All the other kind of best right backs in the world at the moment, your Denzel Dumfrieses of this world, and your Frimpong, who's just gone to Liverpool, of course, are all that at a certain age. So yeah, and the same with Isak as well. Yeah, you can sell him for 150 million, but say you replace him for 90 million with Sesko, is that you could still end up weaker. So yeah, that's what we've kind of done and continue to do, hopefully. But it is so important that they get these signings right this summer, because as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we're now at the point where if we don't get Champions League year on year, then we're going to be so vulnerable to being able to keep the likes of Isak, Tonali, Bruno, Botman, Gordon, and so on. So it's a huge window, and one we have to get right.
Indeed, it's going to be a really interesting watch to see who they bring in to replace Callum Wilson and rival Alexander Isak.
Would Wissa be your man, very quickly?
Yes, for the right price.
Age doesn't bother you?
The age doesn't bother me at all. It's about the price tag here. I think I'm largely on board with Newcastle's approach about buying, players who are 20 to 24 kind of thing, and building for the future around them. But I also think a successful Premier League club has to have that experience, who are 28, 29, 30, and just dropping those little bit then players into the squad. That all helps. And for me, you can't. I'm not going to go down the route and say, like Alan Hansen did all those years ago, you can't win with kids. And of course, 23, 24-year-olds aren't kids. But I think the experience of a 28, 29, 30-year-old is really important. So the age doesn't matter to me in terms for Wissa. It's about the price tag.
Would you take Rashford on loan?
No. I think he's so far past it. I mean, honestly, I would be so against that. So against that. I just think, no. If Man United in the downward spiral they're on, he's not good enough for them, and Ruben Amorim don't want him, why do we want him in the good place we are?
I get that.
Zero sense. I do think they need to attack the low market a little bit more, which I'm sure they're looking into. But yeah, if Wissa for the right price was available, I would take him ahead of Ollie Watkins. I'd take him ahead of Dominic CalvertLewin. On Dominic CalvertLewin,
where do you stand on CalvertLewin? Because to play kind of devil's advocate, you could bring in CalvertLewin for 2 seasons or whatever, and then go and get an Endrick on loan.
Well, look, he's played more minutes in games than I think people realise the last season.
Exactly, and not scored goals.
In a very poor outing side up until late. And I get that the injuries is still a massive issue. But now Eddie Howe does like him, but nothing's happened on it. But I would just back the manager. It comes back to Eddie Howe and the transfer team having enough credit in the bank that you say, I'm not on board with that. A bit like you and Alanga, maybe. I'm not on board with that, but I back the manager to get the best out of who they're bringing in. And that for me is that's good enough. That's good enough for me.
Yeah. I wouldn't have Rashford or Calvert-Lewin either, but I was just asking the question. I don't know. I'd still be looking at Callum Wendo from Rennes, or as I mentioned, Endrick on loan, or Karim Konate. But I do take your point that maybe total youth, considering Asula there as well, isn't kind of the only sort of option. Although, but if we sign someone of 24, 25 years of age, I mean, that would do nicely. That's why I don't know why we weren't more proactive with Jonathan David, to be honest, but that ship has sailed, as we knew it was going to be.
Just at the time that we're about to close up this episode, the BBC are reporting that Tottenham are moving for Yoane Wissa, who is understood to be open to a move to Tottenham. Obviously, Thomas Frank gone there.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. But there are a few deals knocking around that looked done deals a month ago and still haven't gone through. You're on Burmos. And Mark Gahey to Liverpool has gone very, very quiet as well, hasn't it? Kudus is another one. Could you play him down the centre as a kind of that option? If it was the Kudus of last season, no thank you. If it was the Kudus from the season before, yes please. But yeah, it's a minefield. It's going to be so tricky. So the sneering that I was doing at João Pedro, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But at the end of the day, Pedro could well end up being Chelsea's first choice striker when he was going to be largely your second option at Newcastle, wasn't it? So, yeah, it's an absolute minefield.
It certainly is, and that probably again just
Good luck, Andy Howe, Steve Nixon, and Eddie.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to mention. That shows you the kind of trouble that they are trying to wade through to get this striker on board. But fingers crossed they managed to get someone over the line. Thanks to Sam for popping on to the show. Thank you to you guys watching and listening. You know what to do by now. Hit thumbs up, hit subscribe, leave us a rated and review. And for myself and Sam, we will see you guys next week.